Vast majority of the time, it's humans who cause human suffering. God isn't responsible for cleaning up after our messes. If your religion is the truth, which you believe, and God put us all here and thought us all into existence and knows everything that was and is to come, humanity is God's mess to clean up. If he made us in his image, so to speak, we are his responsibility. Like, at least in the sect of Christianity I grew up believing, we believed that God was an all-powerful, all-knowing, omnipotent being who knew every atom by name. If that were the case, how in any conceivable universe would the breadth of human suffering possibly be our fault? If there is an all-powerful, all-knowing God above us, watching us, controlling every single thing that happens, and he has the power to stop it, how is that not his mess to clean up if he created it? And this is one of those questions that if I asked it in youth group or any kind of church setting, people got really defensive and said, well, this is where the faith element comes in. We have to believe that God allows things to happen in order to teach us things and to challenge our faith. And we're not ever going to understand the way that God's mind works and why he allows terrible things to happen. But we have to believe that God is good at the end of all of it. If God is real in the way that Christians believe him to be, he is at best a diabolical supervillain. And there's also numerous Bible stories about God having absolutely no problem cleaning up humanity's messes. Look at Noah's Ark. Look at Sodom and Gomorrah. Look at what God was threatening to do to Nineveh. If the Bible is true in the way that Christians in America believe it to be, and if every single thing in the Bible actually happened in the way they believe it to have happened, even then, God demonstrated that he is fully capable of cleaning up after humanity's messes and being responsible for them. So if that is true, and he has the power to inflict that kind of damage upon humanity to clean up their messes, why can't the opposite be true? Why can't humans exist without suffering? Because, like, if you saw somebody getting attacked or getting bullied, and you were fully capable physically and emotionally of intervening and stopping it from happening, and you didn't, not because of any physical risk to you, but just because you didn't want to and you felt like that person needed to learn a lesson, would that not make you a shitty person? Because I sure think it would. And if God is real and omnipotent and knows every single thing that has ever happened and ever will happen, and he has the power to stop it and doesn't because he thinks that it's important for us in our journey to the afterlife or something, would that not make him a shitty God? Because I think it would. We've all been watching the news the last couple of days. We're all aware of what's been going on, and I just have one question.
Why the frig did Kiss Ross punch Chris Ross in the penis?
If you've been on the internet at all in the last couple of days, you've seen Brooke Schofield's videos about Clinton Kane, as well as Clinton Kane's response to Brooke Schofield's videos, in which he proves every single one of her points. And while everybody is talking about that, I think it's only right to also draw attention to her podcast host, Tana Mongeau, and what Cody Ko did to her when she was 17 years old. Allegedly, if you haven't seen D'Angelo Wallace's video that he made a couple of days ago about this, I would encourage you to go watch it. But regardless of how you feel about Tana Mongeau as a person, I can't imagine how I would feel if I had been speaking publicly for years about a crime that a public figure had committed against me as a minor, only for that public figure never to try to address anything publicly, not even to just try to clear his name, and then seeing a ton of people who are fans of that person go to bat for your podcast host. Because if we're going to hold Clinton Kane accountable for the things he did to Brooke Schofield, we should also be holding Cody Ko accountable for the things he allegedly did to Tana Mongeau when she was 17. He's never tried to refute these claims that she's made, and she's spoken about this for years. And there are people who witnessed this happen. And again, say what you will about people like Gabby Hanna, but the story that Tana told and the story that Gabby told about Tana's encounter with Cody Ko in Florida when she was 17 are the same story. And it really sucks to admit that a content creator you have followed and respected and looked up to for years might actually be a horrible person. But unfortunately, that is the truth about a lot of people who gain power and influence. Cody Ko was older than I am now when he allegedly hooked up with a 17-year-old, which is a crime in Florida. Not that a 25-year-old should ever be having that kind of encounter with a 17-year-old ever, but it was a crime in Florida to do that. And as a 24-year-old, I don't even initiate conversations with people who are younger than like 19 because the maturity difference is so stark. I don't even have anything to relate to them on. Like, it's just so uncomfortable. And the collabs that Cody Ko and Tana Mongeau did when she was 17 are still up on his channel, and they're really uncomfortable and weird. Like, we have got to start bringing attention to this. We should not be letting this fly anymore, and we should not be letting these people gain more power and influence by evading accountability for crimes they have committed. Allegedly. All of these YouTubers being outed as creepy weirdos and or criminals and or both, I have been unfortunately reminded of Austin Jones. If you don't know who Austin Jones is, thank God, be grateful. I'm about to tell you. Trigger warning, here's your chance to scroll away. Austin Jones was a very early YouTuber. He joined in 2007. He had hundreds of thousands of subscribers, hundreds of thousands of followers on Twitter. Pentatonix was really big at the time of his rise to fame, so he was really known for making these emo acapella covers of popular songs. People liked him because he looked a lot like Cord Overstreet, and he kind of had that Justin Bieber Glee vibe about him that everybody was really obsessed with at the time. Specifically, 14-year-old girls were obsessed with him at his rise to fame. I was one of them. And if you were a 14-year-old girl who followed Austin Jones on Twitter, it was almost a 100% guarantee that he followed you back. There was also a high chance that he would reply to your messages. He was very engaged with his fans. And because of how engaged he was with his young fan base, a lot of people did not raise their eyebrows at all of the things they should have been raising their eyebrows at. Like the fact that he, a grown man, was having private DM exchanges with 14-year-old girls. In 2017, Austin Jones was arrested for the possession, production, and solicitation of CSAM. The victims in question were 14 years old. When this started to come out, YouTube deactivated his channel, and he made a plea for help to his fans to try and get his channel back up, claiming it was copyrighted. And in the middle of all of this, he was touring internationally, surrounded by droves of fans, who were all like 14-year-old girls. And of course, 2 victims coming forward made it a lot safer for more victims to come forward. And there are numerous stories of Austin Jones doing this to young girls online. This was after he'd been called out for years by other creators online too, but they were completely talked over by other people who didn't want to believe it. Like, it took him getting arrested and sent to federal prison for people to finally realize how scary and horrible this man was. After all of these absolutely despicable, horrible things he did, he got 10 years in federal prison, which seems like a long time when you're like 14, and then when you're 24, and you realize that this man gets out in about 3 years, that is not a very long time. But I cannot help but wonder how many people there are, like Austin Jones, on the internet who just did a much shittier job of hiding it. Because I know there are a lot of people who were super surprised and appalled to find out this information about Cody Ko the last few days. But I can honestly say for myself, I have said this for years, I would not feel safe leaving my drink alone with that man. And I am so happy that people are starting to wake up as to why that is. And I really hope that things like this can help teach us for the future who we plan on propping up and platforming. And I hope that we can all learn to be more diligent about who we choose to support. I made a 2024 bingo card at the beginning of the year, and one of the things I put on it was that Bethany from Girl Defined was going to announce that she was starting to deconstruct from her religion, which I would argue is already well underway. The other prediction I made was that Brittany Broski was going to be dethroned on the internet, and not just like a minor controversy that people get over within a few days. I think that people are going to get tired and move on. I think people started to raise their eyebrows when the podcast that Brittany Broski had with Sarah Schauer ended abruptly. They haven't really had any online interactions since the podcast ended. Sarah went one direction with their content, and Brittany Broski went in a completely different direction. And Sarah has always been outspoken and political with how they choose to use their platform, but I certainly noticed an upswing in content that she made pertaining to activism and advocacy around the same time that the podcast with Brittany ended. Then shortly after, Brittany made a big stink about how she wanted to use her platform for activism and advocacy, only to say the exact opposite in a Friends Only post a few months later when she said that she shouldn't have any expectations to speak up about Palestine on her platform. In the last year, she has started to surround herself with people who I do not respect personally, collaborating with people like Theo Vaughn, who's known for having racism in his comedy,
And Cole Sprouse, who I thought we all hated because he did that fake social experiment thing on Tumblr, but then he went on Brittany Broski's podcast and all of a sudden everybody felt differently about him. And normally that wouldn't piss me off as much as it does, except for the fact that Brittany Broski turned down going on Tana's canceled podcast for the risk that it would pose to her public image, and then turned around and immediately collaborated with the alleged rapist of the podcast host that invited her on. Like, what's the frickin' precedent, girly pop? Because clearly you have no problem collaborating with controversial people. So what exactly did Tana do to prevent you from wanting to appear on or associate with her podcast in any way? And what did people like Theo Vaughn and Cody Ko and Cole Sprouse do differently to get you to want to collab with them, even though a lot of people do not like them? Because from an outsider's perspective, it looks like they were just men. That's just what it looks like from my perspective. Allow me to set the scene for you. The year is 2012. There are mustaches on everything. Every wedding color scheme of the year is Tiffany blue and peach, and every single picture on Instagram has the Nashville filter on it. Cole Sprouse, also known as Cody in The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody and The Sweet Life on Deck, was exiting his time spent as a Disney youth and starting his time at NYU. That year, he also started a Tumblr blog called Culture Concept. His blog quickly skyrocketed to Tumblr fame. Everyone was really excited to see one of their favorite Disney stars on the platform interacting with their fans. He was really eagerly responding to and interacting with questions from fans in his Ask box. It was really refreshing. He seemed really human and funny, and it was just so different from how celebrities were known for interacting with their fans. People were really excited about it. And then one day, Cole Sprouse looked up synonyms for pretentious on the internet and wrote an entire blog post using exclusively those words to announce that the entire blog had been a social experiment. He came onto Tumblr and said, "So my goal for this website has been accomplished. I got all the information that I needed, and now I'm deleting this account. Thanks to all who watched, read, and listened. I hope that in some small way my words carried weight. The next time you see or hear from me, I will most definitely be a changed man. Before I go, I'll answer a question that people keep asking about my ring. My ring is the skull of a chameleon. The chameleon can see everything that happens around it, constantly aware of its environment. The small reptile changes color depending on the situation it enters. Its very special form of adaptation is one I try to mimic every time I enter a space. I try to become aware of what I step into and change my color accordingly. The way I move, feel, argue, and all the discourse of my life changes in order to succeed within that space. This adaptation to environmental and social pressure will allow me to succeed, much like Darwin had so brilliantly noted. You take a role and embrace it, but know that you are never whole, and those who fall in love with you or otherwise fall for your performance, not you, for you, is never constant. My life is locinous, but there are many levels to deceit, and cheating is only frowned upon when you're caught. So goodbye. And remember that the next time you see or hear from me, I will most definitely be a changed man." And then he immediately went on to Riverdale and portrayed the world's largest edgelord for several seasons. That's Cole Sprouse. He made up a fake persona on Tumblr, pretended to be nice, and then laughed at his fans for believing him. And I don't think he's that changed of a man. I mean, tell me I'm wrong, but I don't think so.
So my library holds are due tomorrow, and I wanted to go through all of them with you guys and just let you know how I felt about all the books that I may or may not have read. So the first book I have is Gwen and Art Are Not in Love. This is a King Arthur retelling. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. I read this for Pride, and I thought it was fine. I just thought that the way that they talked was way too modern for me. So I ended up just I didn't love it, so I just gave it 3 stars. The next book I read is Love Theoretically. I also gave this 3 stars. I thought that the love interest was just very bland, he was just there. Ali Hazelwood, I do enjoy her writing, but she pushes out 12 books a year, and I think sometimes you can kind of tell, because a lot of times it just seems like her love interests are just stand-ins for a stereotypical romance love interest, and that just can get very boring sometimes. Sometimes I want something new, something different. He wasn't even that. He was just there. So then I have The Expanse book 4. I don't even know how to Sibylla. Yeah, so I didn't even get to this. I think I'm just gonna read this on my Kindle because I heard that this one doesn't follow like the main crew like the rest of the books do, and I just love them so much and I don't really want to not read about them. So I'm just gonna like speed through this on my Kindle and then finish reading them physically, or maybe I'll listen to the audiobook and then I'll finish them physically this summer. So then I have Year One by Nora Roberts. I started this book and then quickly DNF'd it. I read like 40 pages and it was so hard to get through those 40 pages. And then once I got 40 pages in, for about 20 more pages, I was very interested and intrigued, and then it switched the POV again and I was like bored again. And this book is about a pandemic, and this was written way before the pandemic happened, and I'm very intrigued by like what authors like thought a pandemic would be like, or what they could create in their mind. And so I just ended up getting very bored, and I know that the library hold was due soon, so I just decided to DNF it and save myself. Maybe I'll come back to this. Maybe it was a soft DNF. All I know is I was not in the mood for this. Then I have The Eye of the Darkness, which is a Star Wars book. I think I'm just not in the mood for Star Wars right now, which is very unfortunate. I really do love the High Republic series, but I just think with everything that I'm reading, and I'm so far behind on Star Wars, that I kind of just need a break from it, even though I've had like such a long break. And it's ending next year, and that's very sad, so I kind of just don't want to part ways with it, and I think that's why. So then I have the Prince Lestat. I didn't even touch this book. Okay, but that's the fun part about going to the library, is I pick up books and then sometimes it's like I actually don't want it, and that's okay because I didn't pay for it and I could just return it to the library, and if I want to read it later I can pick it up again. Like, isn't that so crazy, like how libraries work? I have Magic Lessons. I gave this 4 to 5 stars. I really enjoyed this. This is a part of the Practical Magic series, so if you're excited for the movie that's getting announced, I highly recommend checking out the series. I'm going to be reading the next book. I already have it checked out for my library in my little pile, so I'm very excited to get through this series. And then lastly, I have The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo, another like Prince Lestat type of thing, where it's like I picked it up because it was new, but then I remember like I kind of haven't heard anyone talk about it, and I went to go look at the reviews, and though the rating is like pretty high, when I looked at my friends' reviews, a lot of them said it was boring, and one thing I cannot do is boring. I just feel like, what's the point of writing a book if you're not going to have a plot? So why would I sit there and read that? So I love Leigh Bardugo. Maybe I'll pick this up in a later time. That's what libraries are for, but it's not for now. So yeah, that's it for this video. Be sure to check out your local library and join their summer reading program, because a lot of libraries have prizes to win. Mine has a $50 Amazon gift card that I am going for. So check out your local library. I have been watching Love Island USA since season 1, unfortunately, because that season was absolutely fucking terrible. But one issue I've constantly had with Love Island is that the people, like the Bombshells and the Casa people, get to watch the show before they go on. So it's like they get to like learn what these people want and what these people like. Like, it's very clear that Daya caught on to the fact that Cordell doesn't like when people talk about his brother, and then people have said that they've seen her following Odell, and that which is Cordell's brother, and that they've seen her in his like likes and comments, and I've seen like screenshots of it, but like I don't have like the proof, and apparently like the person who's running her account has deleted everything. But like, it's just like so obvious that like, okay, she can see that Cordell doesn't like when people like that. He can tell when people is using him for his brother, so like as long as I don't bring up his brother or say anything weird, he's not gonna peep it, right? Or even like the whole Ignacio thing, like I think the whole like please don't boot me was funny, but then like I think it was either the next clip or a few clips later, it was the next day, and like Ignacio was like teaching the guys how to make avocado toast because he had been watching and seeing that the OG guys were making the girls avocado toast every morning, so then he started teaching the Casa guys to do it. I thought it was cute, but at the same time it was like very calculated. And like even the Bombshells, like even like instances like Cassie, I don't know if anybody else peeped this, but I felt like Cassie had a parasocial relationship with Leah. Like Leah did not have to tell that girl that she loved her the first day. But you know how girls are, like, it be even the point where you meet a random girl in the club bathroom and you be like, oh my gosh, girl, I love you. But I think Cassie, like, formed a parasocial relationship with Leah. So Leah saying I love you, like, rubbed her the wrong way, because Cassie had only known her for a few hours. Cassie did not owe, Leah. Leah had only known Cassie for a few hours. Leah did not owe Cassie her vote. Like, I'm sorry. The fact that Cassie, like, pulled her to the side, like, at the end of the episode where she got voted off and was, like, you know, talking to her, I was just like, you have every right to be upset. But at the same time, you don't know Leah. She does not, you've only been here for 48 hours. She doesn't owe you anything. And I just feel like these people are, like, forming their own opinions. They see what the public likes. So then, like, I also feel like Daya already picked up on the fact that a lot of people don't like Serena. Before, I did not like Serena. I didn't like how she was I didn't like how she was treating Cordell. But now I'm, like, fully team Serena after, like, Casa Amor. But I feel like Daya saw how everybody, or a lot of people, were treating Serena. So she's like, okay, well, I can already go for Cordell because, you know, I'm familiar with his brother. I like his brother. And then people already are not liking how Serena is treating him. So if I treat him in a way that everyone wants it, then I can become, like, a fan favorite and I can get on his good graces. Like, I don't know. It's been an issue that I've had since season 1.
I watched a video the other day of a Palestinian man recall his experience being held hostage by Israeli militias. And in this video, he recalls Israeli soldiers unleashing Israeli dogs on Palestinian men as he watched these dogs rape and sexually assault Palestinian men. And he says, the Israeli soldier looked at him and said, "You're next." I want you to just take a moment to just imagine your father, your brother, your uncle, your son, your lover in the position that Palestinian men are in right now. Can you imagine the trauma of this experience? I know that we as a society have completely put men at the back burner of all of our sympathy and empathy, almost as if they are immune to experiencing violence and sexual assault and rape. But I just want you for just a second to imagine your father, your brother, any man in your life experiencing this level of trauma. Do you think that they could recover? These men are someone's father, they are someone's brother, they are someone's lover, husband. And they experience this type of violence, and then they have to go back into that world and see the woman in their lives, see their children. How do you think that these people can survive? Do you understand the depth of generational trauma this will cause? Do you understand the trauma that this can cause in an individual? How do these people reintegrate into a society after experiencing violence in this manner? This is beyond demonic. This is beyond torture. There's no levels to this. This is a photo of a Israeli prisoner of war by the Palestinian resistance in Gaza. This was a picture of her before, and this was after she was released. This is a Palestinian hostage that was held by Israeli militias. This is what he looks like after. Do you see the difference? Do you see the difference in how this woman can have a smile on her face? Look at the trauma this Palestinian man has just endured. The difference is uncanny. This is beyond comparison. I want you guys to know that the acts of violence being committed on Palestinians by Israeli soldiers is not something new. It is something that has been taught to them by America, by American soldiers. 20 years ago, photos were released of American soldiers torturing detainees in Abu Ghraib prison in Iraq. These were just a few of the photos that came out of the disgusting acts of torture and violence that American soldiers committed on detainees in Iraq. So many of those detainees in Abu Ghraib were innocent men, innocent people. Do you understand the lasting effects that this disgusting, heinous acts of torture has on a human being? America has always been the front runner of this type of torture and violence. I mean, did you know that the gas that was used on Jewish people during the Holocaust was first used by Americans on Mexicans when they were coming into America? Zyklon B was the gas that was used on Jewish people during the Holocaust, but it was first used by the US government to clean Mexicans who were coming into the country in the 1920s. To be raped by a dog is the lowest form of torture a human being can experience. I cannot imagine the life that these men have to lead after this is over. How does one even reintegrate into a world that has let him down this badly? And we cannot become immune to acknowledging the suffering of men, of Palestinian men, of men all across the world who are experiencing this level of violence. They too deserve our acknowledgement. They too deserve our empathy. These are our fathers, these are our brothers, these are our sons, these are our uncles, these are our lovers. They deserve our attention. They deserve our acknowledgement. So a couple weeks ago, Land of Palestine made a post that I thought was really interesting. They were talking about why most of the Palestinian resistance fighters are not falling into depression. And they were saying that you fall into depression when you are being oppressed. But because the Palestinian resistance fighters are actively fighting back against the occupation, they are not experiencing depression. So this is one of the posts. It says, if colonialism is a disease, then resistance is a cure. In order to understand liberation psychology, we must look at the definition of depression. Depression is violence directed towards the self. When a person is unable to respond to external injustice, the energy of repression turns into the energy of internal tension, which he consumes by forming a distorted image of the self that leads to a decline in the individual's emotional mood and a decline in his motivation and effectiveness, and thus his ability to carry out his daily tasks. And these are the beginnings of depression. I thought that was such an incredible post because oftentimes I get people respond to my videos saying, Neely, what can we do? What can we do? And I understand that people ask this question out of pure frustration and helplessness and hopelessness. But the truth is, I don't have the answer to what exactly you should be doing. I don't even think it's my place to say what you should be doing. The purpose of my videos is not only to educate people on what is happening, but for people to acknowledge the suffering of people globally, of people to acknowledge and have empathy of the suffering of people globally. And for that to live in your consciousness, for that to live in your awareness, okay? When you just allow the acknowledgement of people suffering to live in your awareness and your consciousness, you would inevitably be uncomfortable. And that uncomfortability will call you and motivate you into action. And what you do when you're called to action is going to be something completely unique to you. But when you are called to action, that is the moment that you enter the phase of becoming a creator. And that is what we are all here to do, is to be creators. That is the whole purpose of life. Like, we are here to evolve into our highest self, and our highest self is to meet God's energy. So when we are creating, we are matching God's energy. God is our creator. So when we create, we are in the frequency of God. So how you create, what you create from the acknowledgement of the suffering of the world, that in itself is enough. That is your contribution. What you do is something that I could never do. What I do, you can never do. We have different skill sets, but we can use our skill sets to collectively free ourselves, to collectively evolve as human beings. And I think that that is the purpose of life, for us to be free, for us to evolve into the next stage of human evolving. Like, we are in this stagnant 3D model, and it's time for us to elevate. But we cannot elevate if we are allowing ourselves to be oppressed, if we are not actively fighting back against these oppressive systems. And how you fight back is going to be completely unique to you. As long as we are collectively fighting back against the system, then we can actually see a free world. We can actually see a world that is abundant. But we are not free right now. And I think that my only purpose right now in making these videos is to help people acknowledge what is happening. I can't tell you what you should be doing. But I hope that you open your heart up, that you feel empathy, that you can empathize, you feel sympathy, you can have compassion, and let that drive you. That is step number one. And what you do with that is up to you. You know, how far you go. But it's like, I don't think that you can acknowledge children being killed like this and letting that sit in your awareness and doing nothing about it. I don't believe this about us. I don't believe that you can acknowledge the way that kids are being human beings. It's not just kids. The way that human beings are literally being tortured to death and being murdered and slaughtered. There's no way that that can live in your consciousness and you do nothing about it. Like, you would inevitably be so uncomfortable that you would be motivated, you would be moved, you would galvanize to doing something. And that is what we need right now. We need all hands on deck to actually move this world forward, to end the violence, to end this vicious cycle that we have been in for decades, for centuries, not decades, for centuries.
You know, when people are like, I don't like talking about politics, I don't like getting involved in politics because I don't like being political. What do you mean? Like, what the fuck is life if it's not political? You think the restaurant that you're gonna go eat at tonight, or the grocery store you're going to shop at to get your fruits and vegetables and meat, you don't think that's political? Like, you don't think about where your food is coming from? You don't think about how these corporations lobby our politicians so that they can give you shit food, while the politicians pocket their money, the corporations increase their profits while you eat shit ass food? Like, eating an apple today versus eating an apple 20 years ago is vastly different. You're not getting the nutrients that we used to get from our fruits and vegetables. How is that not political? You don't think that the clothing stores you're gonna shop at, that's not political? Like, you have, again, these fast fashion companies and these huge designers that lobby our politicians so that they can give us shit clothing. And again, it's the same shit. The politicians pocket the money, the corporations increase their profits, and you get shit clothing, synthetic materials that are literally destroying the planet. And also, it's terrible for our bodies. What is life if it's not political? And I just think that it's such a cop-out to have a conversation. And it really reminds me of the movie The Matrix, when the guy who came out of the Matrix realized that living in the real world was hard. So he goes to dinner with the machines and he's like, yeah, put me back into the Matrix, but this time make me rich and make me an actor. And he sells out his friends in Zion. And that's how I feel about a lot of people who know what's happening in the world, who understand that this shit is political, that the system is rigged against us, but like literally choose every day. They make a conscious decision every day to like ignore what's happening. And it's like, why is it so difficult for you to even have the conversation? Like, they don't even want to entertain the idea of rising up against the system, changing the system. It's because you have literally convinced yourself that the system is okay as you chain yourself, like you enslave yourself. No one at this point is enslaving you more than you are enslaving yourself, especially the people who live in the West.
So today, the prestigious scientific journal, The Lancet, published an article saying that an estimate of 186,000 Palestinians in Gaza have been murdered by the Israeli occupation forces. And this number is relatively on the conservative side. The number can be as high as 500,000 Palestinians that have been killed by the IDF. And I am still hearing people refer to Palestinian resistance as a terrorist organization, and this truly infuriates me, because I need you all to understand that Palestinian resistance is the only entity standing in between the total annihilation of Palestinian people. If there is no Palestinian resistance, there will be no Palestinian people. The people who are in the Palestinian resistance, 80% of them are orphans because the Israeli occupation forces killed their families. And I need you for just a moment to put yourself in the shoes of a Palestinian living in Gaza, a Palestinian living in the West Bank, and imagine watching your parents be murdered. If you as a human being would just watch someone kill your family and do nothing, you are a pussy. You are a pussy. Because there's no way that any of us would watch our families, our children, our mothers, our fathers, our brothers, our sisters be murdered and raped and pillaged and do nothing about it. It is so important that we stand in solidarity with the Palestinian resistance. Some of you have never even met a member of a resistance organization, a quote unquote terrorist. I have met many of them. I have interviewed them. I have broke bread with them. It takes a moment to see another individual as a human being, to recognize their struggle, and to stand with them in solidarity. We are killing innocent people with our tax dollars, and then we're calling them a terrorist. The total population of Gaza is only about 1.5 million. So if they killed on the higher end 500,000 Palestinians, they've already killed a third of the population. Many of those that have been killed are children. This is a war on children, and we are watching children die, children be ripped apart on our phones. They are waging war on children because they don't want a future of resistance fighters. They don't want a future of resistance fighters. They know what they're doing. They know that they're killing their families. They know that these kids are harboring hate in their hearts, because who can watch their mothers and fathers be literally murdered, ripped apart, shot at, ran over by tanks, and not feel hatred? And we are calling them terrorists? It is a duty as a human being to stand in solidarity with the people who are fighting against these oppressive systems. This is Renad, a 10-year-old Palestinian girl who is living in Gaza. She is a food blogger, and every day she posts content on wartime dishes, utilizing whatever little resources that are available to her. And lately, I've been thinking a lot about Renad because she posted this. She posted this photo of herself and she captioned it, "Do you think we will survive or not?" When I first found Renad's account, I remember immediately thinking how much she looked like my best friend Sadia when she was a child. Like, they are a splitting image of each other. And I look forward to her content all the time because it gives me so much hope. She is such a joy, and she has this energy and aura of her that is so inviting and loving. And when she posted the pictures of herself saying, "Do you think we will survive or not?" It completely broke my heart, because this is a 10-year-old child that has completely come to the full understanding of what her situation is, knowing that tomorrow's not guaranteed, knowing that at any moment her life can be taken. And I cannot imagine how a 10-year-old is able to even have this understanding and still be so positive and still be so loving. Like, the content she makes, she spreads so much joy, and it's not just for her, it's for all of us. She gives me so much hope. She has provided me with so much hope, and helped remind me that it is important that I find balance in my life, that even though I grieve, I don't have to feel guilty about experiencing joy and laughter and happiness. And just the fact that the person who helped me come to that understanding is a 10-year-old child who does not know if she'll make it to tomorrow. And what's worse is that she looks so much like my childhood best friend Sadia that it almost feels like it's my best friend as a child calling out. And there is something so haunting about seeing people who look like you, who look like your family, who look like your friends, be mercilessly killed like this. Because I think deep down, we all suffer with feeling appreciated and seen. But when a group of people who look like you, who look like people that you know, are mercilessly killed like this, it almost reinforces that negative feeling in your mind that you are not worthy. And the way that Palestinians in Gaza are being exterminated, it is vile. It is the lowest forms of torture. It is vile. And I don't know how we've come to this place where we are all on the same internet as people who are recording their own genocide. We have a 10-year-old child who is documenting her own genocide. I just wanted to make this video to thank Renad for spreading her light and her joy. It has been received, and I hope that she feels seen and appreciated. And I want to remind everyone that the Israeli occupation has murdered over hundreds of thousands of Palestinians, many of them whom are children. Palestinians have a saying, existence is resistance. Their mere existence is a threat to the occupation. It is imperative that we stand in solidarity with Palestinians as they fight for their liberation and their right to self-determination.
Okay, this is a highly requested part 2 of albums that I think were unfollow-upable, and then I will discuss whether the artist followed them up or not. Again, as previously discussed, unfollow-upable is just like, oh, you gagged. You gagged so hard on this. You slayed to a caliber that was so serious that I'm not sure what you can do now. This was crazy. This was literally insane. Everyone knows. Look at the first fucking 4 songs, bro. You know every single one of these, bar for bar, word for fucking word. Like, Teenage Dream was sour before sour was sour. That's what I'm saying. As in, every single one of these is a hit. Every single one of them is a hit. The One That Got Away is also on this. E.T. is also on this. Every single song is a hit, and I'm not lying. Again, if someone's like, you have to make another one of these, I'd be like, what more do you want from me? What more do you want from me? This was just like fun pop earworm music that just burrowed its way into your brain. But as always, the question is, was it followed up? And to be honest, I'm not sure. I'm kind of leaning towards no, but I think this was a valiant effort. I really do. Because like Roar was everywhere. You could not escape that song. You could not escape that song. There's also like Unconditionally, Dark Horse, but it just doesn't quite have the pop like virus factor that Teenage Dream had, I think. But I just don't know how Teenage Dream could have been overpowered. It's like, it doesn't really matter what you're going up against when the other option is nuclear bomb. So, ooh wee. Something deeply serious. Something deeply serious to the culture, for the culture. This was literally like a shift in time. This is like when I started listening to albums in full, was like when this album came out. I'm not joking. There's just an iconic air surrounding this one. Because first of all, who in their right mind goes, oh hey, album? What do you mean by that? Vocally, insane. Absolutely batshit fucking crazy. Conceptually, also insane. It's like the perfect amount of songs too. Like, that's how I felt consuming the album. Like, there's so much going on, but it all makes sense together at the same time. Like, there's a lot of different styles, I would say, of music included in Lemonade. If you don't catch it, you don't catch it, but it all made sense together. It was so cohesive, something so special to me. Yes. And if you don't think so, I think maybe you're homophobic. I love this album for completely different reasons than Lemonade, and it is good in a completely different way than Lemonade is good. This to me followed up, not in a way that it was like, let me do what I just did better, but it was like, let me actually completely switch gears and eat the fuck out of this one too. 10s. And they are in fact across the board, I fear. What Lemonade has on Miss Girl though, Lemonade has music videos. So if someone said to make something after this, I'd be like, fuck you. Literally fuck you and your entire bloodline. What are you talking about? This album, why can't I see it? Why can't I see the sounds when I listen? Why is that happening? I am going through a cinematic experience when I listen to this. But this shit is fucking ludicrous. This is actually fucking insane. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? I can't describe like the way like I start floating when White Ferrari starts playing. I'm not joking. Can you prove that that's wrong? Exactly so. How do you start at 10 and come back bigger and better? We started at 10, girl. The vocals on this are crazy. The production, the harmonies. I feel like Frank Ocean's voice is like if butter wished to be sound. You know what I mean? I too would never do anything ever again. I would never leave my house. I would What more do you want from me, bro? And well, I think the thing, like, you know how like they had like thin eyebrows in the 90s and then like those women got older and they're like, oh my god, like I wish I didn't like pluck my eyebrows all the time because they just like stopped growing back. I feel like that same effect sort of thing is going to occur, but like tenfold with fucking veneers, bro. I'm sorry, veneers are so, I don't even know how to explain it. They're so, ugly is not the right word. Uncanny valley, perhaps. They create discomfort in my soul, I believe. I'm sure there's a few people out there that like, yeah, they have like 1 or 2 teeth that are, but like when people get like a full set of piano keys in their mouth, it makes me lose my mind. Mark my words, if anyone ever says about me, I will never get veneers. I do not have veneers. If anybody at any point in time has said she got veneers, I did not do that shit, okay? I have little teeth, but I think they're cute. But my teeth are crooked as shit. So I will get Invisalign at some point. But never let somebody put that on me. Never let somebody say that I got veneers. I did not do that shit. Do not put me in that uncanny valley ass category, please. I think we have lost the plot a little bit. Truly, genuinely, I think we have. If we're talking about award shows or things that are literal competitions, you sound actually crazy. If you're like, why are we comparing women? Why are we pitting women against? Are you dumb? It is a contest. It is a competition. You must compare the competitors, I fear. Oh my god, I don't know where like, what are we talking about? That's a crazy response to have. That's a crazy response. And I even saw this with like, it was like the Oscars or something. And I think it was that like Margot Robbie didn't get a nomination, but like Ryan Gosling did. And people were like, this is a sign of the patriarchy, da da da. Let's all think for 1 second. Margot Robbie did not lose a nomination to Ryan Gosling. She lost the nomination to another actress. And people are like, this is a failure of like women have lost. What are we talking about? Literally, what are we talking about? That literally made no sense to me. I was like, what man is in the actress category? Who? Literally who? But yeah, it really gets on my nerves. Like we'll be literally talking about like award show season, whatever. And people are like, guys, I don't know why we're comparing women. Well, it's because it's a competition. So that's why that's happening. So one thing that I love about the rise of Chappell Roan is how long it took. And I hate that people are ignoring that. Because it's like, if you watch the really early videos of Chappell Roan, like she has grown so much like into the artist that she is going to be or meant to be. And I think she can still grow from where she is. Like it's completely different. It's like night and day, even though she's singing the same songs. And I think that should bonk those record execs on the fucking head. Because Chappell Roan got dropped from her label. And I feel like all these like executives and in TV shows too, like are looking for some like overnight sensation that literally doesn't happen. That never happens. Like it's so rare. It's so rare that someone has like an Olivia Rodrigo moment where they like drop one song and then they're like the biggest thing in the world. But like people are like, oh my god, who's Chappell Roan? Where'd she come from? She's been doing this for 10 years. 10 years. Same thing with Sabrina Carpenter. Sabrina Carpenter has 5 albums. She has been also making music for 10 years. And I hope that bonks those record execs on the head to be like, Things don't work like that. Like, you need people to like be able to build who they are, what their music is, find their audience. Same thing with like TV shows. It pisses me off so bad. Netflix, I'm literally looking at you. They will never let a show like exist long enough to reach who it needs to reach. They'll give something one season, and if it's not a massive mega smash hit, 1 billion, million, thousand, billion viewers, they cut it. But mind you, shows like The Bear, like first season was not making a lot of noise. It was not making a lot of noise, but it took a second to like find its audience, and now so many people watch The Bear. It won so many awards. It like cleaned up award season. Like, I hate like the capitalismness of it all, because it's just like everyone's looking for a quick buck, and that's not how art works. That's literally not how it works. Anyways, good for Chappell Roan is what I mean. But seriously, like, let people find what they need to make. Like, oh my god. Yeah, I'm gonna be so unbelievably fucking seated for that Wicked movie. I'm gonna be so sad. The theater employees are scared and asking me to leave because it's not November yet, but I'm simply too seated. They got so many talented ass motherfuckers in there. I need to see that movie. Like, this movie made Ariana Grande take voice lessons. Like, she was not messing around about that role. She was not messing around about it. Like, so I know that's gonna give. And then Cynthia as Elphaba, oh, they cooked up something so serious. Like, I was watching, like, I guess this, maybe it was the second trailer they put out. Michelle Yeoh, what are you doing here? What are you doing here, Michelle Yeoh? Like, Cynthia's voice is something that I cannot describe. I don't think that I can ever explain to someone what she sounds like. She's gonna sing. Oh, she's gonna sing. Like, and her voice sounds so rich the whole time, throughout any note. Pick any note. And also, like, I think Jonathan Bailey's in this movie. Like, they literally started picking names out of a hat, but they ate, like, I don't know. And I love a musical. When people are like, I hate musicals, why do you hate Joy and Happiness? Literally, what is your problem? Why don't you have a song in your heart? Like, here's the thing, is I don't think that people do this in real life. They do it on Stan Twitter, and like, that's it. So basically, I was talking about how like it sounds insane when people are like, why are we comparing women when we're talking about things that are little competitions, like award shows or whatever. But yeah, so this person is saying that like people don't know how to share their opinions without like bringing someone else down and like being rude to like somebody else. And like, again, I think that's true for Stan Twitter, but for like regular people who are asked to give their opinions on things, when you get online and say, this wasn't my favorite, or I thought this was all right, if you don't literally bend down, bow down, kiss the feet of whoever you're talking about, people are like, oh, you're a hater, you hated this. Like, people cannot think, and it's so weird. And even if they did hate it, so it's music, or it's a TV show, or it's a movie. That's the point. Like, it's an opinion. People are supposed to make opinions on it. Like, that's how that works. Like, it really honestly kind of worries me that any opinion that is not overwhelmingly positive is seen as like, negative opinions on things aren't bad. That's not bad. And a nuanced opinion, or again, something that is not bowing down to whoever you're talking about, does not equal negative. People have, this is a crazy train of thought that I've seen so many times, because I talk about music a lot on here, and I'll review albums. People just like to hear my opinions on music. I don't know why. But what will get me is like, I was talking about like, albums that I think are unfollow-upable, right? And I was like, I was talking about Melodrama. Melodrama is one of my favorite albums of all time. And the follow-up to that album was Solar Power. And I said, to me, I prefer Melodrama to Solar Power. Solar Power wasn't really for me at that time in my life. And why are there people in the comments of the video being like, why does everyone hate Solar Power? What the fuck are you talking about? What are you actually talking about? Like, oh my god, Solar Power hate, Solar Power slander. Is the slander in the room with us? Is the slander in the room with us right now? Like, that, oh my god. That's why there's certain, oh my god, sometimes I'll be like, listen to this, review this, and I'm like, I'm not doing that, because you don't care about my opinion. You just want me to be like, I love everything and everything was amazing. Well, I'm not gonna love everything. And it's like, even when I don't like things and I'm listening to the album, most of the time I'm like, that's not for me. There's rare times where I'm like, this is bad. I feel as though this is bad. I rarely ever say that. But again, if I'm not like, 10 out of 10 stars would die if I never heard this again, then people are like, oh my god, you hated it, you hater, you fucking hater. Or like when I like things and someone was like, or I put Sour as something that I was like, this is a really fucking good album, and someone's like, you lost all credibility when you put Sour on here. Y'all have never heard of opinions before. It's actually crazy. First of all, credibility to do what? This is TikTok. This is an app on the internet. I have ARM and Wi-Fi and phone. It looks like I'm qualified to me. And I literally replied to them and I said, womp womp. Literally womp womp. You don't like the album, I like it. Okay, and we all move on with life. It's just never that serious. It's never that serious. And I know there's occasions where like people will talk about things or their opinions on things and their takes are like misogynistic or like homophobic or like racist or whatever. That's a different thing. But people are just like, I don't like sometimes it's just not for you. It's just not for you. Nothing's gonna be for everybody, and that's okay. And people don't understand that though. They don't understand that. But yeah, anyways, that's my 2 cents. But yeah, like when I do the album reviews, like if I hear a song that reminds me of another song, I'll be like, this reminds me of this song, or this reminds me of this person, or da-da-da, this kind of sounds like whoever. And they'll be like, why are you comparing people? Maybe because none of us exist in a fucking bubble. We all live together. And art influences other art. And that's how it's actually supposed to work. Oh my God. But yeah, it feels like now you can't even be like, I thought this was better than this. Then people are like, this is comparison and you're da-da-da. Like you say something like that and people hear, I like this and this was absolute dog shit and I hope this person dies. That's literally what people hear. I'm not joking. So yeah, I don't know. I think that maybe people should act normal. I don't know. I think one thing that really holds the girlies back is that some of y'all have an unnatural allegiance to losers. Because when I see a video of Tana Mongeau talking about the Cody Ko thing, and if you don't know, Cody Ko hooked up with Tana Mongeau when she was 17 and he was 25. I don't think he's responded to it in any way, but tell me why a girl in the comments was like, Cody Ko, they could never make me hate you. Well, what a batshit fucking crazy response to have. And it's people like that, like the defenders of the fucking weirdos in the world. Y'all make me so angry. Because first of all, what did you gain? You just look stupid, actually. And I think also with that whole situation, people were like, oh, like, who cares? Like, it's Tana. Which is actually, oh my God, the way that people need victims to be, like, saintly makes no fucking sense. Like, this is not exactly the same thing, but I can't even remember what it was, but I'd seen something and where they were talking about, like, sometimes people, like, prefer when victims of sexual assault or just, like, some kind of, like, traumatic situation, like, prefer when they die. Then they could be like, oh my God, this was so tragic and, like, sad and, like, da-da-da-da. But, like, when they're alive, people, like, pick apart. Actually, people do it regardless. But people will pick apart their character as if that somehow negates the fact that something horrible happened to them. And the way that all the, like, oh, we're supporting girls, like, we're always believing victims crumbles the minute it's a man that y'all like. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. The way I opened Twitter and I was like, oh, what interesting trending words. Girl, I missed a whole assassination attempt, like. And unfortunately, that's where my commentary is going to have to stop. I fear I can't share any more thoughts on the subject. Because if I speak... Well, let's look on the bright side. I got to unfollow so many people today. Especially because I'm from Texas. So everybody who went to my school, if they were Trump supporters, they were undercover Trump supporters. Because it's like nobody really talks about it. But now they're very loud. They're very loud. Especially that one picture. They actually cannot resist. They cannot resist posting that one picture. And I see you. Thank you. I never have to see you ever again. And what's getting me is actually, this is happening across the board. Even on Twitter, though, just like random Twitter accounts left and right. Undercover Trump supporter. Like there's something in the photo. The photo is laced with something so that like no Trump supporter ever can actually like scroll past without having to repost it on the story with 4 eagles and the American flag. And I turned the comments off on my one video talking about it because I don't want to hear what they have to say. And I don't want to give them the opportunity, to be honest. But this one man in particular was very persistent. I apparently needed to know what he had to say. And then he went on a different video to comment and he said, Donnie T, I'm literally straight up quoting. I can't reply to comment because he's blocked now, but he said, Donnie T has aura, finna be president, he's him. And when I clicked on it, white man. Of course. And I was like, the funny thing about this is you wouldn't know any of those words if you weren't around people that your overlord does not like, I fear. But moving on from that, a lot of y'all are actually being very loud. A lot of y'all are being very loud. And it's like, I guess they let white people say whatever they want. Personally, I can't be saying all that. But some of the videos I'm seeing, I'm like, oh, we can see they have you on camera, girl. One thing I will say on the chaperone of it all, I think that queer people who champion the gold starism of it all, I think y'all are weird. I think y'all are weird and odd. It's actually really not that crazy for someone who is a lesbian but grew up religiously in the Midwest. If you're not American, I can't describe to you what the Midwest is. It is not unfathomable for that person to have dated men. That does not then make them not a lesbian, I fear. Like, I don't know why is this confusing? Like, gay people would get married to people of the opposite gender all the time. And we all knew, I thought we're all on the same page, that we all knew that that did not make them not gay. Like, we all knew that. So I don't understand. Like, it just really confused me, actually. I just don't understand. Like, why do people think it's a threat when she's like, oh yeah, one time, like, this guy, or like she'll say it in like an interview or something, and people would be like, da-da, or like, I don't know, they just need it as far away from them as possible. I'm like, that's just her life experience. Like, let her live. Let her fucking live. What's wrong with you? Like, I feel like she talks a lot about her queer journey and like figuring herself out for a reason. And so I think it's odd for people to just like dismiss so much of it, just to be like, I don't know, try to like gold star her in some way. It's weird. Like, y'all are weird. Like, just like, it's weird to me. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Gold star truthers just piss me off because they'll be like, well, if they're gay, then why would they? Maybe because of the entire structure of society. Like, what if we thought about that? I don't know.